Woohoo, we're on chapter 10. We have 30 pages on chapter 10. So let's get started and get some of this read. We're so close to getting this story wrapped up and finished. So, yeah, I'm excited. I hope you guys are too. I want to know how the story ends. So let's get started. Chapter 10. Catherine still felt as though her past was following her, haunting her, making her a liar. It wasn't a new feeling, but she was tired of it. Tired of believing her cousin Bucket was coming for payback. Tired of watching the shadows. Tired of worrying what others thought. Excuse me. It was time to hold her head high and own it. Quit cowering. She was a world away. She'd done a fine job of erasing her steps. All she had to do was continue to avoid the limelight and social media in case the Bucket was indeed searching for her, and everything would be fine. She wouldn't have to dart off in the night, making use of her diaper bag's emergency on-the-run items. She wouldn't have to leave Zach in order to protect him from her past. She was safe here, and Xavier was thriving. Plus, she also had a handsome man sleeping on the living room couch with the sun stretched across his chest. Placing the grocery bags down gently inside the door, she bounded into the living room, then paused, unsure what she should do to the sleeping guys. "Wake up, sleepyhead," she whispered to Zach. "We have a turkey to cook." Zach's eyes opened and his lips curved lazily. He went to stretch, but she stopped him, heart racing. "Xavier's on your chest." Just seeing how fast your reflexes were, he gave her a cheeky grin, and carefully cradled Xavier as he stood. Her son's little wet mouth slacked against Zach's collarbone. Catherine had to admit she was a tad envious. Being in the shelter of his arms, out on the patio last week, while settling Xavier's clothes, had felt good. Felt right. She needed to figure out how to get in on more of that. "It stopped snowing," she said. "Want to run out and get pie fixings? The car keys are around here somewhere." "I went out while you were sleeping. Only ran into a few things while figuring out winter driving like you showed me." She began listing incidents, checking them off on her fingers. There was a car in the parking lot that came around a snowbank too fast. It didn't have time to brake as I was driving on the wrong side of the road again. I slid down the driveway and took out the garbage cans across the street, but they were plastic, so it's okay. And then there was a light post on Main Street. Really a silly place to have it. Zach simply rolled his eyes, knowing she was teasing him. He'd taken her out a few times prior to give her a lesson, and at the time she hadn't known if she was more nervous about being at the wheel of an out-of-control car spinning around on the clear ice of Blueberry Lake, or the fact that Xavier was being watched by the neighbor. She never left him alone with anyone other than Zach, and that had occurred only once this past week. Now twice. "I've never done Thanksgiving before," she said. "I'm pretty excited. It's a lot of cooking and a lot of leftovers." "Perfect. Less for us to cook later in the week. You won't be saying that after 4 days of turkey this and turkey that." They set to work in the kitchen, preparing the food while elbow to elbow, laughing and singing to oldies on the radio. It felt warm, homey, and like everything she'd ever wanted. She decided to let go of her past and just release the fact that everything felt brighter. "You seem chipper," Zach said a few hours later, as she wiped her brow with an oven mitt. Xavier was still sleeping upstairs. The potatoes were almost ready for mashing, and the apple pie had been squeezed into the oven beside the turkey, which they managed to wiggle into a too small roaster first thing. It was starting to smell delicious, the birds' juices hissing as they hit the sides of the hot pan, making the kitchen area a scenery delight. "I am chipper," she tapped Zach lightly with the oven mitt. She was pleasantly tired, and had loved every second of cooking with him. He raised his eyebrows and handed her a glass of non-alcoholic wine, lightly tapping his glass of Morlot against it in a silent toast. "So, what are you thankful for this Thanksgiving?" he asked. He was watching her as he took a sip of their drinks and seemed to have noticed the shift in her mood and how she dropped her paranoia. He seemed relieved, as though her being on edge had put him on edge as well. Do people really do that? Make a public gratitude list? She took a sip of the sweet wine. "Well, it depends how emotionally needy they are." Catherine snored wine out of her nose. You are so very proper and British, as well as ladylike," Zach said, with an amused smile, handing her a cloth to wipe her face. "This is actually the hardest thing to master in finishing school," she said seriously. "I'll bet." She paused, her left arm across her waist as she held her wine glass at chest level with her right. In an attempt to err on the side of not being emotionally needy, how many things am I safe to list?